Well, hello again. I've got some meatballs left over from yesterday's dinner. Well, not that I cooked. I only cooked half the meatballs. Still raw. You know, let's not get that confused. Now then, I'm going to try and do a one-pot pan, I think. And I'm thinking to myself, it's going to be a pasta dish with these meatballs. I'm going to need my oven. Now then, I'm going to have to take a look at the packet. Now, what does it say? How much water, how much fluid? Used to give you an average amount of water to the weight of pasta at one point in time. Okay, well, we'll have to sort of do it the old-fashioned way, which is effectively guess. Yes. I'm gonna use basil and oregano passata in this dish this time. So, yes, right. I'm not going to use all this jar, I'm only going to use half the jar or whatever. Don't need too much. And we're going to cook the pasta in the sauce, in the oven. Yes. Something like that. Right, I need an onion. Let's grab an onion. Oh, that's a really big red onion, that one. I'm going to have to cut that in half. Use half of it. I've got some delicious sweet pointy peppers. I'm going to use one of these. Give the dish a lovely, vibrant, sweet flavour. One of those. Let's get 6 remaining meatballs out from yesterday. Yes. We're gonna need a beef stock. To the stock pot, you can use Oxo if you want. Oxo's not as good, but you know, it does the job. So, garlic. It's not. Garlic's looking way too anorexic there. More leaves. I don't know, why did I put half the bloody shallot with leaves and garlic back in there rather than, never mind. Right, a bulb of garlic. I do need garlic. And oil-wise, I'm gonna cook with beef dripping. See, it's a beef dish. It's gonna be beef. Add some more beef dripping. It's gonna be beef. Lots of beef. Beef flavour, man. You only live once. It's not one up. Stick the rest of the dripping back into the fridge. Not very much, if you noticed, not put very much in it. But small amount, not huge. Doesn't go too fat. There's a good solid resting point for that onion. Down this little big. Good size. Oh yeah. Oh, trick from yesterday. Keep your onion fresh. Wrap it flat in kitchen foil. Oh, days almighty, it's the kitchen foil's gone and done its stupidity. Look at that, look. Problem is, where does the damn thing start? Anybody got any tips on how you resolve? Easy way of resolving the tin foil that was like this. I think that's actually a manufacturer's defect. Seems stuck. There we are. Like the corners crinkled, probably like packaging error. Right, yes, yes, yes. Yes, we're back. Ha 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 ha. Oh yes. And the problem is, screwed up the little tags either end, you know. I had to pull that out. But hey ho, it does still work. Not much left on the roll anyway, so kind of good. Shiny side in. More of those bits. Yes. Keep your onion fresh. Ready for the next night meal. Okay, so I'm going to do, take off much of the loose skin as I can to start with. There we go. Chop the top. Chop the root. Take off the first layer onion. I'm gonna, because it's dropped a bit of onion skin, I don't want that in the dinner. So we're gonna chop them very quickly. Now the knife. And we want to chop. You don't have to chop this super fine actually because of the meatballs. If it was mincemeat, like a bolognese or a con carne, yes, pay attention to chopping it fine. You don't want the onion larger than the actual pieces of meat. I want to keep everything generally about the same size. You know, texture wise that is. Obviously you don't want to chop, well, you could chop your onion like, you know, large chunks the size of meatballs, you know, if you wanted to. I'm going to give that a quick run through with a knife just to break it up. Just to break it up. There we go. Now look, it's actually that simple. That's how simple I'm chopping my onion. Now I put the onion in on a cold pan. And if you've ever watched some of my videos before, you will, I'm sure I've explained why. Because we want to bring the pan and the onions up to temperature to get the water out of them so that we can fry them. If you put the onion in straight on a hot pan, the onions begin to burn before the water comes out and they sort of, well, I don't know, they go mushy. If you kind of want to remain or still have the onion in the dish, you know, so it's crunchy, you can, you know, without caramelising it, then yes, by all means, you could do that method. Now I'm going to snap a bulb of garlic in half. I'm going to use half a bulb of garlic here. And this is the annoying point that everybody hates. Peel the garlic. Sometimes when you get an awkward, let's say, garlic that doesn't like peeling, crush them, give them a crush, get your knife, crush them. Like so. However, some of them dirt cheap knives, I mean, this is a sabatier, which is not a great French name, but really not that great a knife, to be perfectly honest. They bend. So if you try to do your garlic, crush your garlic, whatever, and the knife goes, you know, you end up with a crocodile knife just from trying to crush some garlic, which is no good knife. You know, this isn't too bad. But it's all down to price. These were on offer, so I got these quite cheap. But if they were on normal price, I most certainly would not choose Sabature at the full price. Definitely not. We want finely chopped our garlic. Rocking motion on a knife. Get that finely minced and chopped. Beautiful. There's our minced garlic. Put the rest of the unused garlic bulb back into the fridge. Give the onions a stir. Water's coming out of them lovely. They're beginning to fry. Now, meatballs do not cook properly on the hob unless you boil them or simmer them, you know, with the tomato things. That's why I'm going to do it in the oven. Effectively turn this into a meatball pasta bake. So you have to let them simmer for a good 20 minutes, 30 minutes in in like some tomato sauce and water or stuff like that. And I tend to find that that takes the flavour out of them, which is why I'm doing them in the oven. Because that, I'm going to fry them in the lard, dripping, sorry, which is going to caramelise and lock in the flavours to the meatball. And then I'm going to bake it in the oven in the tomato juices and the pasta, and the pasta is going to absorb the water and the juices from the tomato while actually baking the meatball. Contains the flavour. It's much more, tastes much better. You get the full, you know, effect, you know, of the beef. There my onions. Now my onions, I'm not going to take them till golden brown here because obviously with frying meatballs, getting them around and whatever can take time. So I'm going to put these in while they're caramelising and then go in with the garlic just before my meatballs are completely browned. So there's my meatballs in. They're frying lovely away with the onions. Let's extract the fat off. They're frying away lovely with the onions. Try and keep the meatballs separated when you got them in the pan because they do want to stick to each other. I do like making love in the pan. We don't want that. Ooh, the oils of them onions are starting to come up, getting to the eyes. Ooh la la, good onion that. Ooh la la, definitely good onion. Okay. So I'm just going to lightly brown my meatballs and I'm going to go in with the garlic. The garlic is then going to start to caramelise while the meatballs sort of get a nice char around those meatballs. Yes. I wonder if I move my garlic over to the side now, I can roughly chop up this sweet pepper. I want a beautiful sweetness to the dish and a little bit of crunch. I'm going to sort of medium coarse chop it because I want a bit like mushrooms. I want them to, I want the pepper, the sweet pepper, to remain, you know, its shape and crunchiness to the vegetable. I want it to soften cooking, which is going to come when I do, because I am going to be putting onions in it, mushrooms, sorry, in it. There we So look, now we're frying. See how we've got nice, the brown is starting to come on that beef. We don't want to burn anything. So this is the point where we're frying, so we've got to keep mixing it around. It's now time for my garlic. So I'll go in with my garlic. Yes, as soon as it becomes fragrant, that's it, that's where you want it. So I'm going to grab myself a nice red here, and another pulley opener. Oh, this one actually might be a good bottleneck for the guitar slide. I'm looking for a good bottle to make a guitar slide out of, and this one looks like it might be good because it's got a sort of straight, very straight edge. Yes. Oh, yes. Another fresh, nice, new, actual real cork. That's good. Smells nice, right? Two circles around the pan. Deglazed. Bring the garlic and the onion into a blending stage. The aroma's coming off, that's amazing. I'm going to get the beef stock ready. Now you could put this straight in there, or you could dilute it with water and use beef stock diluted with water, which is what I think I'm going to do. Because obviously the dish is going to require water because we're going to be baking in the oven with the pasta. So I reckon about 400 mils of water, 400 millilitres. You can always reduce it if you need to. In with the stock, let that warm itself up. My meatballs coated. See, now they're not going to stick together because they've been browned and caramelised. The meatballs won't stick to each other anymore. Give this a good shake. Water simmered off the alcohol in that, and it's sort of, you know when it's ready because it thickens up, the water effectively from the wine disappears and leaves all that goodness and sugars behind. It sort of thickens up. It's sort of like a syrup, you know, right. And that's about exactly what it's done. So I'm going to go in with about half of this tomato, half of this jar. A little bit more. Yeah, that's about half. So about half of the starter has gone in. I'm going to mix it. Coat all my beef meatballs. Oh yes. Gonna be coming up the heat. So what I'm gonna now need, I'm gonna need to mix and dissolve my stock pot into the water. Always use warm water, never like boiling hot water. I find that takes flavour out of the stock. Now then, I've got a few mushrooms left over. 3 mushrooms here, just good enough. These are going to go in at the same time as the peppers, baby. Oh yeah. Yeah, if I had a white wine, I would have, used the bleaching method with the mushrooms, which is where you fry them in, and then when you deglaze, with the white wine, and that sort of bleaches the kind of the mushrooms. It gives them a different texture. Done that in a previous video, I believe. I don't know which one I was cooking, but yes, there's. So anyway, my passata is beginning to come up the temperature. We want to get that warm, and there's a trick with this, because obviously dry pasta, as soon as you put it in, within the first 10 to 20 seconds, putting it into whatever sauce it is, whether it's water or brine or stock, whatever it is, it starts to suck things in instantly, and that's usually why it sticks together. And if you don't stir it, well, we're going to utilise that stage with the tomatoes. That's why we've not put the beef stock in yet. Okay, the beef stock's going to go in afterwards. We want it to start sucking that initial first stage with the tomatoes. Gives it more flavour, more punch, baby. Okay, I'm going to do an important task here. Serve myself a glass of wine. I'd have a glass of wine when you're doing it. There we are. Let's have a look at this wine now, got a good red edge to it. Smells nice, good body. Oh, that's very full-bodied. You definitely would not want to be drinking too much of that. No, because it's strong alcohol, but because it's super sweet. It's plummy, very plummy. That's going to taste nice with this dinner. Obviously, I've used it in the dinner, so it's going to impart its flavour and texture into the dish. So anyway, right, that is simmering off now. So I think that's use all of that. I mean, I don't know how much is in that. This is 400 gram bag, but I reckon there's about 150 gram in there. Should be only 100 gram really used per person. Yeah, 170 gram. Oh well, it's an extra 70 grams, eh? Not gonna make me too fat, is it? So that's in there, to straight in on that tomato passata. Oh yes, and this is going to be its first stages where the pasta is going to be sucking up them tomato juices, and that pasta is going to be so deliciously rich from the passata, which is obviously, as we're using the basil and oregano passata here. I'm just going to give the bottle of wine a little spill there, because obviously the rest of it is going to go into the fridge for tomorrow night's concoction, whatever it is that I decide to make. Cool. Yes. Oh yeah. And that pasta literally starts to suck up and absorb all of that goodness. I'm going to richen it even more, make it even more tomatoey by adding a tablespoon of tomato puree. Because again, I find that the beef stock adds its own texture, but it does take away a small amount of the tomatoiness. So we're going to preserve that tomatoiness with a tablespoon of tomato puree. And that is looking a lovely, thick, delicious, red sauced beef meatball pasta dish. I mean, maybe that extra 70 could have done without being that extra 70 grams of pasta, but there you go. So what? Let's put a bit more heat on, let's get some warmth into it. I'm going to stick in my peppers and pepper mushrooms now. I want them to sort of start pulling their waters out into the dish before we put the thingy in. God damn it. I'm not going to use that. It fell on the cooker. I know my cooker's clean. I have cleaned it. But might be picking up, I don't know. I've done it before where you've got cleaner on there when you cleaned it and you put back in the dish whatever, and obviously you're picking up cleaner, that bloody spray antibacterial cleaner that we use to clean things down, and then it adds a funky flavour to the dish. It's no good. We don't want that. So I'm just going to sweat off. I can feel the pasta now. It's not hard anymore. It's softening off. And I can see as it dries up, the water's starting to come out of the mushrooms and those peppers. Because I can see them starting to soften. And as soon as we get a nice softness on those peppers and mushrooms, we're going to go in with the beef stock. That's that time of the rest, so it should have softened up the rest of the stock pot in there. And no need to cover this. I'm not even going to transfer it to a tin. I'm just going to go straight from pan to oven, because this is a oven safe pan up to 220 degrees Celsius. I mean, I don't cook pan to oven at 220. I do 180 to 200, which is well in tolerance. Or specs, shall we say, which is the way to be. So yeah, as you can see now, look, that pasta has sopped up and it's sopping up. There's those mushrooms and peppers start to soften. The water's come out of them. They're starting to sop it up. Now I'm going to drop in just a tad bit when it comes out of the pot. That is just a bit of rock sea salt. Gonna do some freshly ground pepper in there. Remember, we've already got the basil and the oregano and the passata. So there's very little other additional dried herbs that need to be added. However, if you want to, you could add a bit of parsley. I tend to think that parsley works better with chicken and fish than it does really with beef. Basil and oregano is like beef herbs, if you want to put it that way. You know, coriander goes with just about everything. You know, so yeah, they have softened everything, seasoned. We're going in with the beef stock. There we go. Give that a stir. Get that amalgamated into the dish. Deglaze the pan. Lift all that goodness, that caramelised goodness from the onions, garlic, the beef dripping. Get it all off the bottom. Get it all incorporated. It looks really watery, but you've got to bear in mind there's pasta in there. And I'm going to bring it up to a simmer. As soon as it starts to simmer, I'm going to take out the spoon and it's going straight in the oven. I'm going to bake it in the oven. It's past bake for 10 to 20 minutes, but obviously keep checking on it. Once it starts drying, check on the tenderness of your pasta, this, that, and the rest of it. Needs longer, keep it in longer. If it needs less, keep it in less. So yeah, do pay attention to it. So we're done with that. Let's get some of this packets and offcuts from onion into the bin. Onion. God, I bet you can go forever on out what the different pronunciations to that is. Flour, poo, plop. Mmm. Delicious, right. It's coming into that. Periodically stir it, otherwise things will start to stick. Remember, we have pasta in the same dish here, okay? Our meatballs are singed, fried and locked, juices locked in them. So yeah, it's all good. We just need to get it up to that boiling point. And then we can go straight in the oven. I've got my oven on gas mark 6. And on the middle shelf of my oven, it takes me up to about 185, 190 degrees is my gas mark 6. Your oven may be different. You might want to get a oven thermometer, which are one of these. Like one of these things. And obviously, as I say, you can tell what temperature. You put it on the shelf that you're going to bake on. That's why people don't think you put it anywhere in the oven. No, no, no. Put it on the shelf that you're going to bake on. And then you can see exactly what temperature that oven's at on that shelf that you're going to put your food to cook on. And then you know. Because obviously each cooker's different. Every oven's different. You can have gas mark 6 on one and it be 200 degrees. Gas mark 6 on a different oven could be 185, like mine is, you know. So you get one of those, and as I say, and obviously with mine, if I adjust the grills or the shelves in the oven, if I go higher up, it gets hotter. You know, my oven's kind of works like that, you know, and other people's ovens do. Electric fan assisted ovens are balanced throughout, so whatever temperature is in there, if it's 180 degrees, it's 180 degrees throughout, and that's why they're fan assisted. They have a good balanced dry heat cooking method, you know. Everybody's different. So if I had it on like shelf 5 or whatever, it'd be a lot hotter at gas mark 6 than it would be on shelf 3 in my oven at gas mark 6. That's my point. So get yourself an oven thermometer. They ain't too expensive. Put it on the shelf you're going to bake on, and then you can find out exactly what temperature you actually are at on that shelf. Oh yes, and it assists you in getting the right setting or whatever when you're doing things like Yorkshire puddings, cakes and stuff like that, which I don't do because I try to keep the weight down. So yes, obviously all that dryness around the edges, want to get that back in the dish as well. So yeah, we are coming up to the simmer point on that. Yeah, if you stir it and then when you stop, it starts to bubble evenly throughout the entire of the dish, you've reached above 90 degrees Celsius, which is exactly where you want it. So now, there's nothing left to do but to lift it off the gas and stick it in the oven. I'm going to set my timer in there for 12 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and check it. If it needs another 5 or 10, I'll give it another 5 or 10. If it doesn't, it's perfect. Brilliant. Serve up. That's it. Easy. One pan from pan to oven. And I do like those dishes when you actually do them, when you work on the pan. You know, fry everything off, caramelize it, and then you go in the oven, you get the best of both worlds. You get a beautiful baked dish, but all the flavours and juices and layers and textures from cooking on the hob, you know, and it's great. And if you can get a pan that you can literally go straight from the hob to the oven, you're laughing, you know. It's a great way of cooking, and some great flavours you get out of it. And it saves you one washing up because you've only got one pan. I mean, obviously, yeah, you need a knife and a chopping board and a spoon, you know, and then you've got the plate that you're going to eat out of. But, you know, you could have actually ended up with 2 more pans and God knows whatever else. You know, a baking tray, 2 pans, 1 for pasta and the snack recipe, blah blah. You know, blah blah blah. So, cheers. Anyway, I'll let you go. let you go rather than sit there and watching the time go by while it bakes in the oven. So, cheers, good health, happiness. Take it easy. See you later. That's really full-bodied wine. Wow.